I learned to like Surf City Life is Feudal from SSI, but I had to work at it. Now, I know you're thinking that anyone who has to labor at playing a game should probably find another job, but I think the problems I had with the game aren't entirely of my own doing.
Well, you're one of the electronically challenged, so I've seen you labor at entertainment pretty hard before. But you're right, even a real gamer needs a little intestinal fortitude to play Surf City. But it does grow on you.
Before I start some serious whining, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. This is an entertaining game to play. At heart, Surf City is a management game with some strategical elements thrown in to cater to those of us who prefer to kill our opponents instead of financially ruining them.
I like to kill things. Killing is groovy cool. Thank you for shopping at Death Mart. Have a nice day.
Uh-huh. Case in point. Anyway, as you build up your empire, your serfs scurry around the land doing your bidding. They're a versatile bunch, since they're capable of transporting materials, building anything from a fisherman's hut to a gold mine, and attacking your enemies.
They look an awful lot like lemmings, don't they? Unfortunately, just like lemmings, they're so small, I have trouble telling them apart. But after a while, I got used to the squint factor.
You can't just build at will since you begin the game with a limited number of resources. This forces you to make sound management decisions, since you must produce your own strategic materials before you can set your sights on conquering the empires that spring up around you.
I thought the resource management was handled well. You have enough resources to get started with, but you can't rush right out and say, okay, I'm going to build one of everything. Part of the fun is that anticipation, the waiting for new buildings to become available to you.
The problems I had when I started to play this game all came in the area of the management menus. For some bizarre reason, the designers decided not to label anything. This means you have to spend entirely too much time squinting at the manual, wondering whether or not the surf you're looking at is the one that you're looking for.
Squinting at the serfs didn't bother me too much, but they could have at least labeled the buildings. When you pull up the build menu, you're confronted by a bunch of anonymous structures, many of which look very similar to each other. The manual labels them all, but with blurry black and white pictures. If they didn't want the building names in the program itself, they could at least have enclosed color reference cards with high-res photos to help us out.
In order to succeed at this, you have to make a fairly steady series of changes in allocating your resources as the game progresses. I'm glad that Blue Byte, the game's designers, are proud of their graphics. I have to confess I would have enjoyed them a lot more if they had clearly identified them. Everything's labeled in the manual, so I'm assuming they felt it wasn't necessary in the game's interface. They were wrong.
And it's slow. This is realistic, but it can be aggravating. One of the tutorials took over an hour to complete. I spent 5 minutes building everything, and the rest of the time I just sat back and literally watched the grass grow. Okay, so it was wheat, but the point is the same. An option to accelerate time, like you find in a lot of flight sims, would have been a good idea.
I see no reason not to play Surf City. The scampering surfs are fun to watch, the game's interface is fairly easy to manage, and the management portion makes a lot of sense. Just be sure and buy a magnifying glass to identify your surfs.
And you'd better tell your spouse not to wait up for you. They're tiny, they're slow, but they're still a lot of fun. It's not a quick fix game, and you can't play it in an hour or usually even 2 or 3. But if you have some spare time and maybe some ibuprofen, you should enjoy Surf City. It's not a major gaming revolution, but it's extremely entertaining, and isn't that what games are for?